Welcome back to Liberty Coin History, where ordinary-looking American coins can become fascinating pieces of history, and where the coins hiding in old collections, jars, drawers, and even pocket change deserve a second look. Today, we are beginning an exciting journey through the top 4 United States coins, and our first coin is a 1979 $1 coin from the United States of America in dirty, circulated condition. At first glance, this coin may look completely ordinary. It may have scratches, dark areas, discoloration, fingerprints, or years of accumulated dirt that make it look like something nobody would want. But here is the important question. Could there be something special hiding underneath that worn appearance? Before you spend, clean, or throw away an old dollar coin, take a closer look at the date, mint mark, design, and overall condition. Sometimes the difference between an ordinary coin and a collectible example can come down to details that are easy to miss. So stay with us until the end, because this 1979 dollar is our first stop in a treasure hunt that every coin collector will enjoy. The 1979 United States $1 coin is especially interesting because it belongs to the famous Susan B. Anthony dollar series. These coins were introduced in 1979 and became one of the most recognizable modern American dollar coins. The obverse features a portrait of Susan B. Anthony, the important American social reformer and women's suffrage leader, while the reverse displays the Apollo 11-inspired eagle landing on the moon design. The coin is relatively small compared with older large-size American silver dollars, which made it convenient to carry, but also caused some confusion with quarters. When you hold a dirty 1979 dollar in your hand, you are not simply holding a piece of metal. You are holding a small piece of American history from a fascinating period of U.S. coinage. And because millions of these dollars were produced, most circulated examples are not extremely rare by themselves. However, collectors know that the date alone is never the whole story. Mint mark, variety, error, condition, and authenticity can dramatically change what a particular coin is worth. Now let's talk about the detail that every collector should check first: the mint mark. A 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar can have different mint origins, and the mint mark can help identify where your particular coin was produced. Depending on the issue, you may encounter a P for Philadelphia, D for Denver, or S for San Francisco. But don't stop after simply finding the letter. On 1979 S coins, collectors pay particular attention to the appearance of the S mint mark because there are recognized varieties, including differences in how the mint mark was punched. This is where a seemingly dirty and ordinary coin can become much more interesting. Dirt and discoloration can make tiny details difficult to see, so use good lighting and, if possible, a magnifying glass. Look carefully around the date and mint mark, and compare what you see with reliable numismatic references. Never assume that every unusual-looking mark is a rare variety, because damage, corrosion, or postment alteration can imitate valuable characteristics. The condition of our first coin is described as dirty, and this is something that can easily mislead new collectors. A dirty coin is not automatically a rare coin, and cleaning a coin does not automatically make it more valuable. In fact, aggressive cleaning can permanently damage the natural surface and reduce collector appeal. If your 1979 dollar is covered with dirt or dark material, resist the temptation to polish it until it shines. Collectors generally prefer coins with original surfaces rather than coins that have been scratched or chemically altered. Instead, examine the coin carefully exactly as you found it. Look for major scratches, dents, corrosion, unusual discoloration, missing design elements, doubled details, cracks, off-center striking, or other characteristics that could potentially indicate something unusual. A dirty surface may hide details, but it can also preserve clues about the coin's history. The goal is not to make the coin look new. The goal is to determine what coin you actually have. Another fascinating aspect of the 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar is the possibility of mint errors and varieties. In the world of coin collecting, Errors can occur during the manufacturing process, and genuine dramatic errors can attract strong collector interest. Examples of error characteristics that collectors may investigate include off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, major die breaks, and other clearly documented minting abnormalities. But there is an important warning. Many strange-looking coins are not mint errors. Scratches caused after the coin left the mint, dents from circulation, machine damage, environmental corrosion, and alterations can all create unusual shapes or marks. That is why identification matters. If you believe your 1979 dollar has an extraordinary error, take clear photographs and consider having it examined by an experienced numismatist or professional grading service. A genuine mint error with strong visual impact can be much more interesting than an ordinary circulated coin, while a damaged coin may have little additional value. Let's also discuss condition and grading, because this is one of the biggest factors affecting collectible coins. Two coins with exactly the same date and mint mark can have dramatically different market values if one is heavily circulated and the other remains in exceptional condition. A heavily worn 1979 dollar will show flattened details, scratches, contact marks, and surface wear from years of circulation. A high-grade example may preserve much sharper design details and stronger original luster. Professional grading services examine factors such as wear, strike quality, surface preservation, and overall eye appeal when assigning grades. For our dirty coin, however, we should be realistic. Dirt alone does not mean the coin is rare, and a circulated 1979 dollar should not automatically be described as a fortune. The exciting part is that the coin still deserves inspection. Before deciding that it is worth only face value, check every identifying feature and make sure there isn't a recognized variety or genuine error hiding in plain sight. There is also an important historical story behind Susan B. Anthony herself. Anthony became one of the most influential figures associated with the American women's suffrage movement, and the decision to place her portrait on a circulating U.S. dollar was historically significant. The Susan B. Anthony dollar was one of the first U.S. circulating coins to feature a real woman rather than an allegorical female figure. This gives the 1979 coin an importance beyond its monetary value. Even if your example is dirty, scratched, and worth little more than its face value, it can still be a fascinating collectible and a reminder of American social history. Coin collecting is not always about finding a coin worth thousands of dollars. Sometimes the real treasure is discovering the story behind something that millions of people once carried in their pockets. But here's where our treasure hunt becomes even more interesting. When collectors hear a dramatic claim that a 1979 dollar can be worth hundreds, thousands, or even far more, they need to understand that such values do not apply to every 1979 dollar. Exceptional auction prices generally involve very specific circumstances, such as extraordinary condition, a recognized rarity, a major authenticated mint error, or another unusual characteristic. A normal dirty circulated Susan B. Anthony dollar should not be valued as though it were an ultra-rare specimen. The responsible way to evaluate a coin is to identify the exact issue first, and then compare it with documented sales of comparable examples. Online listings with extremely high asking prices are not the same thing as confirmed auction results. If you want to know what your coin is realistically worth, look for completed sales, reputable auction records, professional grading information, and expert opinions. Now imagine finding this 1979 dollar in an old box, inherited collection, garage jar, or forgotten drawer. You pick it up, notice the date, and see that it is dirty and worn. Most people might simply spend it or toss it into a pile of ordinary coins, but a collector stops and asks questions. Where was it minted? What is the mint mark? Is the date clearly 1979? Does the coin show an unusual variety? Are the surfaces original? Is there evidence of a genuine mint error? How much wear does it have? Those questions transform an ordinary-looking coin into an investigation. Use a soft light source, examine both sides, inspect the edge, and take your time. If you discover something genuinely unusual, don't rush to clean it or sell it to the first person who makes an offer. Identification should come before valuation. And remember, the word dirty can be deceptive. Dirt is not a magical ingredient that creates value, but a dirty coin can still contain valuable information. Sometimes collectors encounter coins with dark tunning, staining, environmental residue, or other surface changes. Some can be removed or altered by cleaning, while others may be permanent. That is why experienced collectors generally avoid harsh chemicals, abrasive materials, polishing compounds, or household cleaning methods. If you think your coin might be valuable, preserving its current state is often safer than experimenting with it. Put the coin in a safe holder or envelope, handle it by the edges, and avoid rubbing the surfaces. A coin that looks unattractive today may still be worth examining tomorrow, especially if research reveals a recognized variety or error. So what should you take away from our 1979 $1 coin? First, don't assume that every 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar is rare. Second, don't assume that a dirty coin has no value. Third, always check the mint mark, variety, condition, and possible errors before making a final judgment. And most importantly, remember that coin collecting rewards patience. The most valuable discovery may not be the coin that looks the most beautiful. It may be the coin that has one tiny feature that everyone else overlooked. If you have a 1979 dollar sitting somewhere in your collection, take it out and give it a careful examination. Compare it with trusted references, and if something seems unusual, consider getting a professional opinion. Your coin might turn out to be completely ordinary, but discovering that for yourself is part of the excitement of the hobby. And this is only coin number 1 in today's top 4 coin adventure here on Liberty Coin History. We started with a dirty 1979 United States $1 coin, and already we've uncovered history, mint marks, varieties, grading, errors, and the importance of careful examination. Imagine what could be waiting in the next 3 coins. This is exactly why you should never judge a coin only by its appearance. Before you spend an old coin, before you clean it, and before you throw it into a jar of loose change, check the date and every important detail first. If you enjoyed this treasure hunt, make sure you support Liberty Coin History by hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel, and turning on notifications so you don't miss our next rare coin discovery. And tell us in the comments, do you have a 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar, and what mint mark does it have? Your coin could be ordinary, collectible, or something genuinely interesting, but the only way to know is to look closely. The second coin in today's exciting top 4 coins treasure hunt is another 1979 United States $1 coin, but this time there is one very important detail that separates it from our first coin, the D mint mark. This is the 1979 D Susan B. Anthony dollar, struck at the Denver Mint. At first glance, this coin may look like nothing more than an old circulated dollar, especially if the surface is dirty, scratched, or worn from years of handling. But here at Liberty Coin History, we never judge a coin simply by its appearance. The date, mint mark, condition, variety, and possible errors can all tell a much bigger story. So before you dismiss a 1979 D dollar as an ordinary coin, take a few moments to examine it carefully. There could be an interesting collectible hiding behind an ordinary appearance, and that is exactly what makes coin hunting so exciting. The 1979 D dollar belongs to the famous Susan B. Anthony dollar series, introduced in 1979 as a smaller-size circulating dollar. The obverse features Susan B. Anthony, a major figure in the American women's suffrage movement, while the reverse features the Apollo 11-inspired eagle landing on the moon. The 1979 issue is especially important because it represents the beginning of this short-lived dollar series. The D Mint mark tells us that this particular example was produced at the Denver Mint. When you look at the coin, Carefully locate the mint mark near the lower portion of the obverse, close to the date. Make sure the letter really is a D and not damage or discoloration that merely resembles a letter. On an old circulated coin, dirt and wear can make small details difficult to read, so good lighting and magnification can make a huge difference. One of the biggest mistakes new collectors make is assuming that a mint mark automatically means a coin is rare. The D mint mark is important for identification, but it does not by itself make every 1979 D dollar extremely valuable. Large numbers of these coins were produced, and many surviving examples are still available to collectors today. That means a normal circulated 1979 D dollar generally should not be described as a guaranteed fortune. However, this does not mean you should ignore it. The real treasure hunt begins when you look beyond the date and mint mark. Examine the surfaces, the lettering, the portrait, the rim, and the overall strike. Look for unusual characteristics that might separate your coin from a normal example. A valuable coin is often valuable because of a very specific combination of characteristics, not simply because it is old. Now let's talk about condition, because this can make a major difference. A circulated 1979 D dollar may have scratches, contact marks, flattened details, dull surfaces, and discoloration from years of use. A coin preserved in exceptional condition can look dramatically different. Collectors and grading companies evaluate factors such as wear, surface preservation, strike, luster, and eye appeal when determining a coin's grade. If your 1979 D dollar has been heavily circulated, don't be disappointed. The fact that it has wear doesn't make it worthless. It simply means that its potential collector value needs to be judged in the context of its condition. And remember one very important rule: do not aggressively clean the coin. Scrubbing, polishing, or using harsh chemicals can leave permanent marks and may actually make the coin less desirable to collectors. The next thing you should investigate is whether your 1979 D dollar shows any genuine mint error. This is where the story can become much more exciting. During the minting process, mistakes can occasionally happen, and dramatic authenticated errors can attract collector attention. Depending on the specific coin, collectors may investigate characteristics such as major off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, die breaks, or other documented minting abnormalities. But be extremely careful here. A scratch is usually just a scratch, and a dent is usually just a dent. Damage that happened after the coin left the mint is not the same thing as a manufacturing error. If your 1979 D dollar appears dramatically unusual, compare it with reliable references and consider having it examined by a knowledgeable numismatist or professional grading service. There is another reason this coin is worth discussing. 1979 was the first year of the Susan B. Anthony dollar. That makes these coins historically interesting even when their market value is modest. Susan B. Anthony's portrait represented an important moment in American commemorative and circulating coinage. Millions of Americans encountered these small dollar coins in everyday transactions, but the public often confused them with quarters because of their similar size. The coin's short production history and distinctive design have helped keep it popular with collectors. When you hold a 1979 D dollar today, you're looking at a coin from the beginning of an unusual chapter in modern American coinage. That history alone can make the coin worth preserving as part of a collection. Now, if you discover a 1979 D dollar in an old collection, don't immediately search for the highest price you can find online and assume your coin is worth the same amount. Asking prices are not the same as actual selling prices. A seller can list a normal coin for thousands of dollars, but that does not prove collectors are willing to pay that amount. A much better approach is to research completed sales and compare coins that match your example in date, mint mark, variety, grade, and error status. If you find an auction result involving a spectacular 1979 D dollar, look carefully at why that particular coin achieved the price. Was it professionally graded? Was it an unusual error? Was it an exceptionally high-grade specimen? Understanding the reason behind a price is much more useful than simply seeing a large number. And here is something every beginner should remember. Don't let the word rare make you stop thinking critically. A 1979 D. Susan B. Anthony dollar can be collectible without being extremely rare. In fact, many of the most enjoyable coins in the hobby are affordable examples that allow collectors to study history, design, minting techniques, and varieties. If you are building a Susan B. Anthony collection, a 1979 D example can be an important part of that set. You can compare it with Philadelphia and San Francisco issues, study differences in strike and surfaces, and learn how professional grades affect appearance. The more coins you examine, the easier it becomes to recognize something genuinely unusual. Imagine finding this coin in a box of old change. You pick it up and see 1979, then notice the little D mint mark. It looks dirty and worn, and your first thought might be, this is probably just an old dollar. But instead of putting it back, you grab a magnifying glass. You examine the date. You inspect the mint mark. You look around the portrait for unusual doubling or damage. You study the rim and edge. You turn it over and inspect the eagle and lunar design. Suddenly, an ordinary-looking coin becomes a mystery waiting to be solved. That moment, that feeling that you might have discovered something overlooked, is one of the greatest reasons people become passionate about coin collecting. If you have a 1979 D dollar, there are a few simple things you can do right now. First, confirm the date. Second, confirm the D mint mark. Third, examine the overall condition. Fourth, look carefully for unusual minting characteristics rather than ordinary damage. Fifth, compare your coin with trustworthy numismatic references and documented sales. And finally, if the coin appears exceptional or shows a potentially significant error, consider professional authentication. Don't clean it before doing your research. Don't sell it based on a random internet listing. And don't assume that every unusual mark means a fortune. Good coin collecting is about evidence, patience, and careful observation. So our second coin, the 1979 D. Susan B. Anthony dollar, gives us another excellent reminder that the smallest detail can change the story of a coin. The D mint mark tells us where it was made, while condition, varieties, errors, and authenticity determine whether there is anything particularly special about the individual piece. Even if your 1979 D is a normal circulated coin worth close to its face value, it remains an interesting piece of American history. But if you find a coin with an unusual authenticated characteristic, that's when the investigation becomes much more exciting. So don't ignore those old dollar coins sitting in drawers, jars, inherited collections, or forgotten boxes. Take a closer look. You never know what you might discover. And remember, this is only coin number 2 in our Liberty Coin History Top 4 treasure hunt. We have already looked at a 1979 dollar and now a 1979 D dollar, but 2 more coins are still waiting for us. Leave a comment below telling us whether you have ever found a 1979 D. Susan B. Anthony dollar and what condition it is in. Maybe your coin is ordinary, maybe it is collectible, or maybe it contains a detail worth investigating. The only way to find out is to look closely. Our top 4 coin treasure hunt is getting even more interesting. We have already examined the 1979 United States dollar and the 1979 D dollar, and now we have reached coin number 3, a 1979 P. Susan B. Anthony $1 coin in fine condition. The small P mint mark tells us that this coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and because this example is described as being in fine condition, it gives us an excellent opportunity to talk about how circulation, preservation, varieties, and mint characteristics can affect collector interest. At first glance, this may look like an ordinary old dollar, but never underestimate a coin simply because it is common-looking. The most exciting part of coin collecting is learning how to separate an ordinary example from one with something genuinely unusual. So stay with us as we take a close look at what makes this 1979 P dollar interesting, and what collectors should actually check before deciding what their coin is worth. The 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar is historically important because it was the first year of the Susan B. Anthony dollar series. The obverse features a portrait of Susan B. Anthony, whose name is closely connected with the American women's suffrage movement. On the reverse, you'll find the distinctive eagle landing on the moon design inspired by the Apollo 11 mission. The coin's compact size was intended to make the dollar easier to use in everyday transactions, although its similarity in size to the quarter created confusion among the public. Today, these coins are popular with collectors because they combine modern American history with an unusual chapter in U.S. circulating coinage. When you hold a 1979 P example, you are holding a coin produced during the very first year of this fascinating series. The first feature to check on our third coin is, of course, the P mint mark. The letter P identifies the Philadelphia Mint as the facility where the coin was produced. On the Susan B. Anthony dollar, the mint mark is located on the obverse near the lower portion of the design, close to the date. If your coin is worn, make sure the letter is actually a P and not a damaged or partially obscured mark. Good lighting can make a tremendous difference when examining older circulated coins. Once you confirm the mint mark, don't stop there. The P simply tells you where the coin was made. It does not automatically make the coin rare or extremely valuable. The next questions are much more important. What variety is it? What is its exact grade? Does it have any genuine mint error? And are the surfaces original? Now let's talk about the fine condition of this 1979 P dollar. A coin described as fine has experienced noticeable circulation, meaning some of the original detail has been worn down through use. On the Susan B. Anthony dollar, you may see wear on the portrait, hair details, lettering, and other high points of the design. The reverse can also show flattened details from circulation. However, fine condition does not mean the coin is worthless. In fact, grading is one of the most important skills a collector can learn. The difference between heavily worn, moderately circulated, and exceptionally preserved coins can be significant in the marketplace. If you're trying to evaluate your own 1979 P dollar, avoid guessing a grade simply by comparing it with a photograph. Learn the grading standards, inspect the highest points of the design, and remember that professional grading can be useful when a coin appears particularly valuable or unusual. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they discover an old coin is immediately assuming that age equals rarity. A coin from 1979 is now decades old, but millions of coins were produced during that era. That means the date alone doesn't make every 1979 P dollar rare. What makes the hunt exciting is looking for the exceptional examples within a large population. Collectors may search for varieties, high-grade specimens, or authenticated mint errors. A normal circulated example may be primarily a historical collectible, while an unusually preserved or error example can attract greater interest. This is why we encourage you to examine every detail rather than relying on a dramatic price claim. In coin collecting, the exact identity of the coin is always more important than the headline number. Another area worth investigating is mint errors and unusual varieties. A genuine minting error can sometimes make a coin much more interesting to collectors, but you have to know the difference between an error and damage. Look carefully at the lettering, date, portrait, rim, and overall shape of the coin. A major off-center strike, clipped planchet, broad strike, or significant dilated error can be worth investigating. On the other hand, scratches, dents, gouges, corrosion, or marks caused by machinery after circulation generally don't create the same kind of collector premium. If something looks strange, don't immediately assume you have found a rare error. Take photographs, compare your coin with trusted references, and if the feature appears significant, seek an expert opinion. Proper authentication is especially important before making any claims about a potentially valuable error. Now imagine the story behind this particular 1979 P dollar in fine condition. It may have been carried in someone's wallet or purse. It may have been used in a vending machine, stored in a cash register, or passed through countless hands during its years in circulation. Every scratch and mark can be a tiny reminder that the coin was actually part of everyday American life. That's what makes circulated coins fascinating. They aren't just objects sitting behind glass. They are pieces of history that traveled through the economy. A fine example may not have the brilliant appearance of an uncirculated coin, but it can still tell an incredible story. For many collectors, that historical connection is one of the most rewarding parts of the hobby. There is also a reason you should be careful when researching 1979 dollar values online. Search engines can show listings with extremely high prices, but an asking price is not proof that a coin is worth that amount. A seller can list an ordinary coin for an unrealistic price, while actual auction results may tell a very different story. When researching value, focus on completed sales of coins that truly match yours. Look at the date, mint mark, variety, grade, error status, and overall condition. A professionally graded high-condition coin is not directly comparable to a fine circulated example. This distinction is extremely important because it prevents collectors from becoming disappointed by unrealistic expectations. The best coin research is based on evidence, not sensational headlines. If you have a 1979 dollar at home, here's where the real treasure hunt begins. Place the coin under a bright light and inspect the date and mint mark. Then examine the portrait and the lettering for anything unusual. Look at the rim and edge for signs of damage or abnormal striking. Turn the coin over and carefully study the eagle and moon design. Pay attention to the overall wear and surface condition. Do not use abrasive materials to make the coin look brighter. A coin that has been aggressively polished can lose its original surface and become less desirable to collectors. Your goal should be identification first and cleaning never, or at least never without understanding exactly what you're doing and why. The fascinating thing about coin collecting is that a coin doesn't have to be worth thousands of dollars to be worth your attention. The 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar represents an important chapter in American coin history, and it can be a great coin for beginning or expanding a collection. If you are assembling a Susan B. Anthony set, comparing the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco issues can teach you a great deal about mint marks and production. You can also study differences in strike quality, surfaces, and preservation. The more examples you examine, the better your eye becomes. Eventually, you may begin noticing details that you would have completely missed when you first started collecting. So, what is the big lesson from our third coin? Don't judge a coin by its appearance alone. A fine-condition 1979 dollar may be a normal circulated example, but it still deserves proper identification. The mint mark tells us its mint origin, while the condition gives us an important clue about its level of preservation. Beyond that, varieties, errors, authenticity, and market demand determine whether there is anything especially valuable about the individual coin. If your example turns out to be ordinary, you've still discovered an important piece of American history. If you discover something unusual, then your investigation has only just begun. That's the beauty of coin hunting. Every coin gives you another opportunity to learn. And now, we are only one coin away from completing our top 4 coins treasure hunt here on Liberty Coin History. We've examined a 1979 dollar, a 1979 dollar, and now this 1979 dollar in fine condition. But the fourth coin could bring another fascinating story to our collection. Do you have a 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar? What condition is yours in? Maybe it's been sitting unnoticed in an old collection for decades. Take another look, because sometimes the most interesting discoveries begin with one simple question: what exactly am I holding? Now we have finally reached the fourth and final coin in today's exciting top 4 coin treasure hunt. Our first 3 coins took us through 1979, including a regular 1979 dollar, a 1979D, and a 1979P in fine condition. But now the date changes, and our fourth coin is a 1980D United States $1 coin in bad condition. At first glance, this coin might not look impressive at all. It may be heavily worn, scratched, dirty, discolored, or damaged from years of circulation. But here's the question that every serious coin hunter should ask before giving up on an old coin. What exactly are you looking at? The date, the D mint mark, the variety, the condition, and any genuine mint-made characteristics all matter. So don't judge this 1980D dollar only by its rough appearance. Let's take a closer look at the history, collecting interest and important details that make this coin worth examining. The 1980D Susan B. Anthony dollar is part of the second major year of regular circulation for the Susan B. Anthony dollar series. Like the 1979 coins we examined earlier, this dollar features Susan B. Anthony on the obverse and the Apollo 11-inspired Eagle and Moon design on the reverse. The D mint mark identifies Denver as the mint of origin. That tiny letter is one of the first things you should look for when examining the coin. Because this particular example is in bad condition, the mint mark may be worn or difficult to see, so good lighting is extremely useful. Before making any assumptions about value, confirm that the date really reads 1980 and that the mint mark is genuinely a D. A damaged or heavily circulated coin can sometimes make letters and numbers look unusual, which is why careful examination is so important. Now let's talk honestly about the bad condition of this coin. Severe wear can dramatically reduce the collectible appeal of an otherwise common coin. You may see flattened details, scratches, dents, discoloration, corrosion, rim damage, and other signs of a long life in circulation. But bad condition does not erase the historical significance of the coin. This dollar was produced during an important period in modern American coinage, and it remains an interesting example of the Susan B. Anthony series. For collectors who enjoy assembling complete day 10 mint mark sets, even circulated examples can have a place in a collection. The important thing is to separate historical interest from exceptional monetary value. A worn 1980D dollar should not automatically be presented as a rare fortune, but it absolutely deserves a closer look before you decide what to do with it. One of the most important lessons from this fourth coin is that condition and rarity are two different things. A rare coin in poor condition can still be collectible, while a common coin in poor condition may have little premium above its normal value. Likewise, a common coin in extraordinary condition can sometimes attract significant collector interest. That's why professional grading exists. Grading examines the amount of wear, the preservation of the surfaces, the quality of the strike, and the overall appearance of the coin. Our 1980D example is described as being in bad condition, so expectations should remain realistic. However, the correct approach is still to identify the coin first. Don't throw it away simply because it looks rough, but don't assume that its rough appearance somehow makes it rare either. The next thing to investigate is whether this rough-looking 1980D dollar contains a genuine mint error. This is where even a damaged coin can become an interesting mystery. Look carefully at the shape of the coin, the rim, the lettering, the date, and the design elements. A genuine major mint error can sometimes be visible even on a heavily circulated coin. Collectors may investigate characteristics such as major off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, die breaks, or other documented minting abnormalities. However, be extremely careful because circulation damage can create very convincing imitations of errors. A coin smashed by machinery, scraped against another object, or damaged after leaving the mint is not necessarily a mint error. If you see something truly unusual, research it carefully and consider professional authentication. The 1980D date is also important because it gives us a chance to compare this coin with the three 1979 examples from earlier in our video. The 1979 coins represent the beginning of the Susan B. Anthony dollar story, while the 1980D shows the series continuing into its second year. This comparison can make your collection much more interesting. You can place the coins side by side and study differences in wear, surfaces, strike quality, and mint marks. Even when none of the coins is exceptionally valuable, the collection can tell a story about the development and circulation of this unusual American dollar. Coin collecting isn't just about chasing giant price tags. It is also about preserving history and learning how American coins were made and used. Now here's a warning that every collector should remember. Never clean a potentially collectible coin just because it looks dirty or damaged. Many beginners believe that making an old coin shiny will make it more valuable. Unfortunately, aggressive cleaning can scratch the surface, remove natural characteristics, and leave the coin with an unnatural appearance. If this 1980D dollar has dirt or discoloration, don't attack it with abrasive materials, metal polish, harsh chemicals, or household cleaning products. Instead, preserve it as you found it while you research its identity. If the coin turns out to be common and heavily damaged, its market value may remain modest. But if you discover a genuine variety or error, preserving the original surface becomes even more important. Another mistake is believing that every old dollar coin is automatically worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Online videos, social media posts, and marketplace listings sometimes feature spectacular prices, but these examples usually represent specific coins with unusual characteristics, exceptional grades, or documented errors. A normal 1980D dollar in bad condition should not be valued using the price of a rare, professionally graded specimen. When researching value, always compare your coin with examples that actually match it. Look at date, mint mark, grade, variety, error status, and authentication. Most importantly, distinguish between an advertised asking price and a confirmed sale. A coin is not automatically worth whatever number someone writes in an online listing. If you have a 1980D Susan B. Anthony dollar at home, you can turn this ordinary-looking coin into your own little investigation. Start by confirming the date and D mint mark. Then inspect the portrait of Susan B. Anthony and the surrounding lettering. Examine the rim for abnormalities and look closely at the reverse design. Check the edge for anything unusual, but remember that normal circulation damage can create strange shapes and marks. If the coin is extremely worn, don't try to estimate a high grade. Instead, focus on identification and possible varieties or errors. Take clear photographs if you discover something unusual, and compare those photographs with trusted numismatic references. If the evidence suggests something significant, professional evaluation is the safest next step. And there is something special about finding a coin like this in bad condition. A shiny, uncirculated coin immediately attracts attention, but a battered coin can be overlooked by almost everyone. That means the challenge becomes much more about knowledge than appearance. A serious collector learns to look past the scratches and discoloration and asks whether the underlying coin has an unusual characteristic. This is one reason coin hunting can be so addictive. You never know what might be hiding inside an old jar, forgotten drawer, inherited collection, or box of loose change. Sometimes the coin that everyone else ignores becomes the coin that starts an interesting investigation. So what should we conclude about our fourth coin? The 1980D $1 Susan B. Anthony coin in bad condition is not automatically a rare or extremely valuable coin simply because it is old or carries a D mint mark. However, it is an important piece of the Susan B. Anthony dollar series and deserves proper identification. Check the date, mint mark, condition, varieties, and possible mint errors before making a final judgment. If the coin is heavily damaged and completely ordinary, its value may be modest. But if it has a genuine and significant minting characteristic, that could change the story. The key is evidence. Don't rely on hype. Don't trust unrealistic asking prices, and don't assume every unusual mark is an error. Learn, compare, verify, and then decide. And there you have it, the fourth and final coin in our Liberty Coin History Top 4 treasure hunt. We've traveled from the 1979 United States dollar to the 1979 D, then the 1979 P in fine condition, and finally the 1980 D in bad condition. 4 coins, 4 opportunities to learn, and 4 reminders that the smallest details can make coin collecting incredibly exciting. If you enjoyed this journey, make sure you like this video, subscribe to Liberty Coin History, and turn on notifications for more American coin discoveries. And don't forget to check your own old dollar coins before spending or discarding them. Tell us in the comments which of these 4 coins you have found in your collection. Maybe your example has a different mint mark, a different condition, or an unusual characteristic that deserves further investigation. Keep looking, keep learning, and remember, the next interesting coin could already be sitting in your pocket, drawer, or old coin jar.